All right, all right. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do some audio testing live on air. Reinhold, can I get a test? Make sure that's working before we.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We got Reinhold going through. I got levels going through there. I've got levels going through on Twitch. All right. Hey everybody, back for the first time. We are Libertarians, low key wall. We're back. I know we took a small break. Mentally, it's my fault. I was on the last bit of studying for the ITIL exam, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library exam. It's really cool exam, especially for someone like me who's been IT ops manager, IT manager. It's really goes with most of the job titles that I have. Oh, thanks, woo, Reinhold for resub. Yeah, Reinhold resub. Thank you. It's good for someone with my career path. It's because of other things I've done for my thing, and I also needed for my degree program. I go to since I'm mostly a stay-at-home dad and just do side gigs, I have been doing the WGU cybersecurity program, and they require me to take certain certification tests to prove my competency as I study through their program, and one of them was that certification. The next one is this website development, which, if anyone really knows me, I don't do website developments. I don't build websites. I haven't built a website since 03, okay? And I use Notepad because I'm an American and we use Notepad. So I don't know how I'm going to build a website now. I was like, so HTML5 is all new to me. I know of it and what about it, but I don't know like the interest of the willing to take a test for it. So that's what's going on with me. That's been slowing down things for Low Key Wall. It's slowing down things for Liberty and Chill, and I apologize. And I appreciate everyone who is sticking with me and keeps poking me every day. I'm one of those guys who I don't get bothered or upset if you poke me if I haven't done something every day. And that's why I like hanging out with Reinhold and doing stuff with Reinhold, because he'll poke me until I get something done for him. Which, trust me, I will get it done. Just stop him from poking me. I won't be mad that he's poking me because I'll be more mad at myself that I didn't finish a task that I said I would do. So, if I ever, so going forward, like I said, it's okay. Just poke me until I get a task done for you. It's because I got thousands things going on.
I'm the greatest hypocrite there is in that aspect, though, because my podcast is still not up.
Did you pod fade? Oh, you can't. Well, you got to have podcast to pod fade, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I think it was that vaporcast. That's what we call. I have to coin a term. Maybe vaporcasting or something like that. Yeah. I think the last time Wiki Kender said I used Microsoft Front Page. I think the last time I built a website was Front Page. Also introducing my co-host tonight, we've got Reinhold. Reinhold, you want to say hi to everybody? I kind of introduced you a little bit, but
hello, everybody. My name's Reinhold. That's about it.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say there.
Yeah. We also pulled in. We got the. You guys all know him. He's running for Congress. He's got primary chance. We've got James Neese here in the chat. He's going to do something, but he'll be right back.
I'm back.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. We got Neese back. The undisputed dank lord of paladins right now. Going through there, proving everything that's broken, and going through and destroying paladins.
He's still not rank 1 though, so
it probably best
to work on. Not as good as Russians who can live 24 hours a day on the game.
Yeah, vodka makes the game go better.
Russians are just...
It's necessary for that game, I think. Vodka really helps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we even got Reinhold on it, because on Friday nights we do our little gaming session. So, I moved the camera, and I'm so used to the camera being here, and I actually moved it so it's at my main screen, so I should change the way I focus and look, but I'm so used to it over here, so I apologize. Last Friday, because a Friday we do our game night, I still make sure I do that every Friday, hook or crook. So some Fridays I do not feel like doing it, I feel like sleeping, but, I love the hangout aspect of the wall chat, or just the chat forum, just hanging out playing games. Even if you don't play the game with us, I would appreciate if people would just, like some people have, just hang out in the Twitch chat, and just hang out and talk with us while we game. You can play a completely other different game. Granted, if we're playing Paladins or some other game that's team, we're going to shout a lot of team things that are going on in the game. But, it's here and there.
And I felt responsible to try out Paladin since I did get you guys to try out Dirty Bombs.
Yeah. Which, it's a completely different shift, the games are. And now you can see how we were, like, took us a while to really start getting Dirty Bomb, because that's what we were used to doing Paladins, and going over there, it's like a different system, because as you saw, the hitboxes aren't the same.
Nope.
Yeah. In order
you can't wall jump, it's like...
Yep. In order for me to get a headshot with Lex, I have to aim over ahead and to the far left, and I usually hit most hitboxes on that game. On Paladins, I should say. Dirty Bomb, I can actually aim for the hit part, and I get headshots.
They released a new Merc today too, by the way, called Hunter, which is another sniper, but it uses crossbows.
Good old bows, good old crossbows. I'm sure, like, a lot of people have listened to the has the Tuesday show launched yet on the podcast? Has it released yet? I didn't.
I don't know if it's released officially yet.
Okay. I was going to talk about some stuff, because that's one thing I didn't bring up about the whole bow and arrow aspect about guns last night on Tuesday's show. But you can use bow and arrows to hunt, and there are like other weapons and stuff like that.
I'll tell you what, like the game with the worst hitboxes I've ever played was a game called Mercenaries, where like you couldn't get headshots because the head just wasn't. They didn't fill it out, I guess, on like the second game. But the whole game was just based around like a North Korean conflict. Mm-hmm. So if you couldn't get the headshots, you could always opt for like the mini nuke. So you just nuked like the entire area, just run through, nuke, and you just watch the entire continent blow up. You had like Russian mafia chasing you, the Chinese army chasing you, the UN being like, "You can't be using orbital nukes." I'm like, I'll be using orbital nukes till I die, son.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys like PC gaming, go ahead and like join us with like while we go on PC Game on Fridays. I appreciate it. Like you guys coming and hang with it. Let's see, we've got a Farkaz Nugan, so like, howdy, all listen, but can't type much, working out. But that's fine, hanging out in the chat, just hanging out with us, just hanging out. That's the main key of low key walls. It's more of a hangout and just more of a chill, more atmosphere, and just bringing up different things that are going on. Like, all right, so one thing I am going to bring about is like this whole idea of the aspect of. They were talking about like bows and arrows and stuff like that, and knives and swords and stuff like that for like the gun control argument. I was watching people talk about this, and it always freaked me like, and it makes me realize that a lot of people understand and see combat only for what they've seen in movies, which it's understandable. That's how most people get and receive like any type of combat that they actually see, is through just television and movies. So, like I said, that idea that, hey, if the guy has a smaller round capacity magazine, hey, you can be able to stop this person while they're reloading. And I don't know what crappy John Woo movie, Matrix movie they were watching when they thought that was a possibility, but that's how you get shot in the face. You don't rush somebody with a gun that has ammo unless it's your last-ditch effort, and either you're going to get shot in the back or shot in the front. It's the only reason you would do that. Or you really think you've got the drop on this guy, or he's really fiddling, or his gun's all jammed up, Well,
the other thing is people don't realize how quick people can reload a gun. It's less than a second. So what are you going to do? In that half a second, you're going to be able to jump in and stop him while he's reloading. You click a button that drops the old one out, you pop the new one in, you're done.
Yeah. The other thing is it's also a big stick. They say they have the bayonet mouth. You just got stabbed with a bayonet, right? Or, it's where you got your sidearm of a handgun sitting on your chest on a flak jacket. You could just pull out a different gun and get shot with that gun. Let's see, then there's people talking about bow and arrows. Like, well, if you don't have an AR-15, you can hunt with bow and arrow, just up with a bow and arrow. And I'm like, okay, one, I'd rather be shot with a gun than have someone hit me with a bow and arrow. because that arrow's got to come. It's coming out one or two ways: either back the direction it came from, or out the backside, and both options suck.
Well, they'll have to make crossbows illegal, or,
right?
Crossbows.
Yeah. And dealing with like most bows strength, like most people who hunt with bows, and all the bow hunters out there. If correct me if I'm wrong, most of them are the modern compound bow with all the pulleys. It's hard to pull it, but it's more of it's toned for going through different animal hide and going far distance while hunting out there in the wild. To go through, I don't know, fleshy human skin at 30 yards doesn't have to be. The pulleys can be weakened enough so a moderate person can pull a pulley back on that sucker. And that's if you use a modern compound bow with pulleys. We're not talking about someone went out and got an old timer bow with an axe knife would pull this thing back with some wood. But that's here there on that. That's the only thing
Well, I mean, how many stories do we hear about somebody with a knife killing a bunch of people? I mean, that happens.
Knife tactics.
Even if you get away with that, then you've got now we got explosives we got to worry about. We've got we're going to make all things that could possibly be made into an explosive now to be illegal. I mean, when you start getting into this idea that you're going to make everybody safe. Mm-hmm. You have to have a huge police state to do that.
Right.
There's no way to police all this stuff and make everybody complete. Because how many, in the UK, there are people getting run over with trucks and cars. Mm-hmm. I mean, this isn't something where people aren't going to shift. If they want to kill somebody, they're going to kill them. They're going to find a way to do it. They're going to find a way to do it efficiently because they're not stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is in the UK they have tons of different knife attacks. People say they do not go around on the street unless they have their knife on them. A lot of the young kids make sure they have knives on them, just for protection from. But in the UK, they still have gun deaths. People get stabbed with knives, and the idea don't have to worry about knives. You can't kill that many people with a knife. Bull crap. You can kill a lot of people if you have a knife and someone doesn't have a knife. You're going to get messed up. It's just how it is. Look at Kender, doesn't matter. It's a virtue signaling campaign to keep the base roused up. Yeah, that is true, because if the Democratic base doesn't stay riled up, and they also got the whole rules for radicals, they had to keep changing the message up to keep the base riled up, because if they don't and the message goes stale, a lot of people stay at home this November, and they don't get the votes. So yeah, look at Kender. It's probably mostly that, considering how they're treating everyone else.
That's why we didn't hear a lot of it after the Las Vegas shooting. We're hearing a lot more now because it is 2018 and there is this election coming up, and they're wanting to get some real damage done on these guys. They want to kill the NRA, and thinking that that's going to cut the funding for all the people who are Republicans. And it's a really sad way to go about it. But I mean, just imagine if there was a campaign by the Republicans to get rid of the ACLU.
Right.
I mean, the NRA. The funny thing about the NRA is. It still wants, the NRA wants gun regulations. If you ask any NRA spokesman or anybody that works for the organization, right? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about legalizing fully automatic weapons, basically repealing the 1934 Gun Act? Mm-hmm. They'll say well, I don't think we should. I don't think we should. We shouldn't have Tommy guns anymore. We shouldn't have those types of guns. So people think the NRA is just about full blown legalization of all guns. Not really. The NRA does a lot of they write the legislation for gun control half the time. We'll let this pass, but we'll ban this. We'll let this pass, we'll ban this. It's not certain gun groups are yeah, I should have a fucking 150 drum round AK fully automatic 40 millimeter grenade launcher attachment. Where it's just for what? Duck hunting. It's
and to be fair, the NRA has gotten a little bit more conservative over the past couple decade or two. They were a lot more into that more education and being okay with some gun regulations, but I think it's kind of swung so hard that they dug their teeth in, basically. So they're becoming a little bit more just resistant to anything anymore. Well, a lot of people are kind of abandoning the NRA and going to the Gun Owners of America anyway.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the GOL, and there's other gun groups, stuff like that, and some don't belong to most gun groups, and some people are only members of the NRA or Gun Owners of America simply because they want the liabilities insurance. So if they have to use their gun in self-defense, they've got that insurance there.
Right, and another thing you guys were talking about last night is how many gun owners were. How many people are gun owners, but the government doesn't know it?
Right.
I mean, I've got guns, and I don't think I've
Allegedly.
bought a gun ever. Right. So it's not, they're passed down through families. So there's no knowledge that anybody ever has that I would have a gun.
Mhm.
So I don't know how they know that number's accurate or not.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's the other thing with it is, since there is no database, unless there is a database, and so rounding up guns would require them to go around to each house, go inside, and search each person's house.
That's the funny thing when they're talking about rounding up guns. I'm like, do you know why Japan never invaded the coastal United States? It wasn't because they couldn't get here. It wasn't because it was because they knew that they were going to have every American with a gun shooting them.
Yeah, shooting back at them.
Yeah. Does the government think it's going to go any better when they start rounding up guns?
Right.
It's going to be bloody.
Yeah, and it will be a very unfortunate event. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but it will be very unfortunate because the last time gun confiscation happened in the United States, it did get bloody. Because it wasn't in the United States; it was the colonies at the time. Sorry.
It just depends how the U.S.
sparked a revolution, didn't it?
Yes, it did. That's why the whole what's that stupid guy got arrested. Let's see, who was this guy's name? Oh man, I'm good failing at American history right now. The whole one if by sea, two if by sea, one if by land, where the British were coming in. They were coming in to collect guns. Because they were,
and he didn't even do anything that night. That's the funniest part. Paul Rivers, you're thinking of.
Yeah, Paul Rivers.
And I saw a great story on that where he was actually, he didn't get very far on his ride, but two other people were the ones that actually succeeded in their rides.
Yep. And
they were the ones that were real heroes. But he had the poem written about him, so he got the acclaim for it. It was actually, I think, one of his relatives, his descendants, that commissioned that poem and made it famous.
Typical middle manager, man.
Yep. Smart move.
Collecting guns would be stupid. If only because, not just you have to go door to door, you have to register all those. But even if you get to the point where people are like, well, you're collecting my guns, I'm going to shoot back, it's just going to be a lot of collateral damage. It's going to be, if you start shooting back at the government shoots back at you. How far is the government going to push? If you're in a small town, your whole small town's like, well, we're going to shoot you back. We're going to come through. Mm-hmm. Where's the limit before the government's like, fuck it, we'll just drop VX gas on the town? It's okay, you're fucked.
Yeah.
How well did alcohol confiscation and drug confiscation work?
Well, that's the thing. They only went after people who either didn't pay off the people going after collections, or they had to wait for someone to snitch on somebody.
And the funny thing too is that you're going to have all the people who want to get rid of guns just saying, "Well, it's just going to be the gun owners that get killed, so who cares?"
Oh yeah.
They're evil anyway.
You have to do it sneaky, right? As time goes on, technology increases, right? Mm-hmm. These guns you have now, they're just basically mechanical devices that work. You start to introduce guns that require fingerprints to activate. You start getting to electronic guns, which are just basically energized guns that shoot bullets. They're already trying to implement the this gun only shoots for this user type of system. Yeah. Once you go 100 years, 200, 300 years in the future, when all these guns start to become electronical as opposed to mechanical, it's easier to confiscate them at this point because you can just disable them. It's not just a matter of I have to actually go physically get the gun. I can just EMP blast an area. I can just do a whole bunch to disable every single gun in the area. Then you have it's just a brick. The only people that would have guns at this point that would work are people that keep these really pristine ancient relics, people that keep pristine muskets. Yeah. But how long is your AR going to last?
How long does it take? I mean, people learned how to make guns. It's not like you're not going to be able to have people building guns. With 3D printers, it's not even going to be an issue. Well, so people are going to be making their own guns anyway.
Well, not even 3D printers, just CNC machines that are already available. Yeah. And there's already so many places that there's so many South Africa, not South Africa, but African towns that showed people that they will make guns out of anything. As soon as they make a bullet, they figure out how to make guns and people get guns. You know.
They blow their hands off a lot too.
Oh yeah.
There'll be people that make them, but like the bulk of the population at that point probably won't do that. So it's just like you get your electronic guns, they don't work anymore because the government disables them. Then you just get rid of guns at that point. It's like, well, we just lock them down so only these people can have them, and they have technology access to it. They can print it. So that's what the government probably is going to try to do.
Do they think that's going to work out well? I mean, seriously, I know that they keep saying, "Oh, Australia, oh, UK," but the rise in violent crime in those areas after getting rid of guns because nobody can defend themselves. I mean, they don't have. They talk about this gun ban in Australia. But they don't have a gun ban in Australia. There's 100,000 guns or more in Australia right now. Right, yeah. So you can still get a gun in Australia, and there's still people defending themselves. But they also have, arson attacks went up, knife attacks went up, other types of violent crime went up because there was no way to defend against it anymore because people would give it up their gun.
Could we get a demographic to showcase where the violent crime goes up, inclusive to people that immigrated from Southeast Asia, Muslims?
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
It's funny. It's really funny. It's always correlated like that. Like it's when you get a huge host of population, you get a bunch of immigrants that come through here. Even like no matter where the immigrants are from, even like Irish immigrants that came to the U.S. like 150 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when they came here, the crime rate went up because the goddamn Irish. So what the goddamn Irish doing? Like, well, they didn't have any jobs. They kind of just sat around working in factories that they could. So they went to street crime. I don't have no jobs as an Irish person. So I started these Irish mobs, these Italian mobs, and they started doing more street crime.
Well, you got to remember most of that happened during the same time we had Prohibition when all the crime was increasing anyway. So they were able to jump in with those types of mob activities because they were the easiest way to. It's the same thing with now when you have all the gangs with the drugs. If you're a young person who has no future and you can't get anywhere, and the gangs are out there, you're joining them in order to get by because you think that's your only way out.
Yep. Yeah. Sitting in the chat, someone asked, Danger317 asked when's the ASMR. I don't know. And 3D and CNC machines are becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper each day, and and just like Ingenuity, people will just keep creating and can make some weird, interesting devices. I think I posted a link, a YouTube video in the We Are Libertarians group. It's from the first episode of Burn Notice, where the guy goes like, I like guns because guns make people dumb. I'd rather take duct tape in a hardware store any day because, makes you creative and you do some very dangerous things in a hardware store with duct tape.
They don't get that, human beings are actually very inventive and smart about those things. And yeah, guns are easier, but it's not like you get rid of guns and all violent crime just goes away. It's a silly notion to think that that's going to happen. Yeah.
And the other aspect of people, like, what I always tell people is like, guns are I always show people, guns are the great equalizer. If you're 85-year-old, you're walking around, there's no way, no matter what you know or what you can, or what you think you can do, there's no way you're overpowering, like, 16-year-old use. Even if, like, even myself, I know how to fight and handle myself, but, some 16-year-old would probably, beat the crap out of me for the simple fact that he's 16, full of testosterone, ready to beat the crap out of somebody. But, I have the access to guns and we'll shoot.
Think about this. If the person who did the shooting had wanted to kill more people than he did, all he had to do was lock up the main entrance to the building.
But we're not suggesting anyone do anything.
No. But just take 2 cans of gas, lay them around, and then set it on fire.
Yeah.
What would happen? People would die. It's the thing is he wanted to see them die, and that's the mentality we've got to get. If we focus on the mentality on why people are doing this, then we would better understand and better handle why these happened in the first place and fix it. But no one wants to do that. Right. There's a story just today about how a teacher used to send home a request to parents to say, give me a letter telling me a little bit about your child so I can better take care of them while they're here. And she used to get, 99% of the students' parents would send back a letter saying, "Oh, this is my child, and this is the things about them that she should know. She said now she barely gets 20%, 30% of those back, and they can just send them in an email, and they're not even doing that. So the parents aren't taking an interest in the kids, right? And kids are there's so many issues that need to be dealt with that we're not dealing with. Instead, we're talking about guns instead.
Right. Yeah.
And it's going to cause more problems going down the line because nobody's taking a look at what the issues really are.
Right.
How does a kid get to that point to think, oh, I'm just going to shoot up my school? What's going on through his head that's leading him down that path, and why aren't we fixing it first?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's some of the stuff we did talk about, like on Tuesday Night Show, or like how do you have access, what are the other roadblocks, and the aspect of just like anyone, this because the three of us here in the right now talking are all in IT, and we've all been in that IT room when something bad has happened, and you've got some idiot that goes, you know what, it's this thing, I know it's this thing that's broken, we just need to switch it out. Without even looking at any logs or looking at any of the monitoring devices, they just know that they just have this idea in their head that it's this router that's bad, it's this switch that's bad, it's something in this thing, or it's the server that's bad, and they want to switch it out.
What's worse is I've been in a lot of situations in IT where you come to there's a problem, and the first thing people start doing is, well, it's this person's fault. This person did this. This is why this is happening. Instead of saying, let's fix the problem first. Right. And then let's go see what caused it, or let's go find out who the person was responsible, and make it so that we eliminate this from happening again, right? So it's not, nobody's wanting to just fix and look at the problem and fix it. They want to try and start throwing blame. They want to start because they think they know it, and it's like you don't know what was going on in this kid's head. You don't know what was going on in this kid's life. You don't know why he decided to do this, and until you know that, you're not going to fix the problem.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Because he could have got 20. I can think of 20 different ways that a kid who's intent on doing what he did would be able to accomplish what he did without access to an AR-15.
Correct. Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. And just like I was, and I said last night, like they always talk about we need to arm teachers and do stuff. You're just like, hey, you know what? When I looked at this whole incident, what would have stopped this guy? What would have stopped most of these mass shooters? Blocking physical access.
Well, not just that. Somebody talking to the kid and saying, "Hey, you're okay.
Well,
you're not a horrible person." That sort of thing.
Yeah, I get that on that point, but I'm talking about more security.
But tactically, why was he even allowed on that school if he had graduated already?
Didn't Elliot Rodger shoot some people or kill some people because girls wouldn't fuck him? Yes. Like something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. I bet you most of the boys that are doing that, I bet you if you find it, it's because a girlfriend broke up with him in a horrible way, and it caused them to set them off, and the whole school laughed at him, and he was being bullied or he was being treated badly. Almost guarantee you every one of those is that, and they had no one to turn to. They didn't have a strong home life, because trust me, when I was bullied when I was a kid, very hard, and if I didn't have a strong family support system, I could easily see something like that going on in my head, where I just think that the whole world's against me, my life's over, I'm just going to go out in a blaze of glory, as it were.
Well, if the problem was at least in Elliot Rodger's case, probably this kid too, because the kid that shot up in Florida, he's kind of goofy looking, it's just, it is what it is. Yeah. They always write manifestos. Like most of them write manifestos. It's always like, this is blah blah blah. This is how I feel. This is how I feel, like that. And it always comes down to, it's always like an angry young man. Angry at what? Angry at I'm not getting girls. Angry I don't got no friends. Angry that I'm a 19, 20-year-old loser. I have nothing going on. I'm not in college. I'm not working. There's a lot of anger.
And this kid in Florida, if I remember reading right after this happened, he had a bad breakup right before he left the school or whatever. He had some girl break up with him, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with it, just because of how it went. Most likely, it probably wasn't a very happy experience. Let's put it that way, because it isn't like that in high school. It's not like, we're not seeing eye to eye. I'm just going to break up with you. It's usually a very humiliating experience.
Well, Dylan Roof shot up that church. The fucking all right. When he shot up the church in Charleston, there was like a whole list of things that precluded to it. Dylan Roger, or whatever his name, Dylan, I forget his last name.
Yeah, you don't need to say the shooters' names.
Yeah. He had a girlfriend. Girlfriend fucked a black dude, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So after that event, that Tyrone just threw that dick.
Yeah.
Just threw that dick harder than he ever could.
Mm-hmm.
He felt inadequate. He felt cucked.
Yeah.
Just
Emasculated.
Yeah.
So what did he do? He immediately went on the internet, typed up some angry stuff on the internet, joined some national socialist movements, went to some white supremacy websites, boiled down to a point, I'm going to shoot up the black church. So his inability to get over the fact that, hey, it's not the black dude's fault, not your fault. Your girlfriend was probably just a whore, man. To be honest with you,
Right.
Instead of looking at that.
Well, they're the kids in high school. They're not very mature sexually. They're still experiencing themselves, figuring out about themselves, and also we're not saying that these women have a responsibility to not, to be stuck in a relationship with guys. We're not saying that at all. Hope not. Hope you guys aren't saying that. I'm guessing.
No. It's not that. It's just that. Okay, here's my.
But you're
thing.
just. I know you're just saying
talking
the situation. Yeah.
But yeah, and emasculated teenage boys are not the most stable people in the world. I'll give you that. But
Sure, yeah.
so we were talking about homeschooling a bunch of years ago, and somebody was like, "Well, I want my kid to learn to the socialization skills." And it's like, well, who do you want the kids to learn socialization skills from? From a bunch of other kids who don't have socialization skills are all figuring it out,
Right.
or from your parents, friends, and people around that all know how to to deal with each other in a social manner, right? So maybe this whole learning your socialization skills in a school setting is not the best idea.
I will say the libertarian kids who are like 14 years old, I understand Robert's Rule of Order. They kind of suck sometimes. Here in the chat, we've got Wicked Kenders, and let's see. Well, Frank Houston said, yeah, and we call those people management, Harry, ha ha ha. So Wicked Kender goes, those manifestos are what should have been expressed to a mental health professional. Let's face it, I think it's all guys here. There's not a lot of mental health support out there for men. To boot, we as men have a culture of shaming when it comes to getting that kind of support. Yes, there's a lot of culture of shaming, stuff like that when it comes to men and mental health. And there's
a lot of things.
Hmm?
There's just a lot of things that should be done that nobody's taking a look at. So that's my main problem about this. Everybody's focusing so much on the guns. They're not focusing on what society's doing to cause these boys to think that this is a rational response.
It's the problem with the society, man, is like I can go to Tinder, right, and I can just swipe right, boom, swipe right, boom, swipe right, until I find someone that wants to bang me. You have this society where things are instant gratification, that things just happen like this, that people are so stuck in their own agency as a person, that they're so individualistic, that they're so narcissistic in such a degree that when something bad happens, something that's out of their control, something that they can't figure out why it happened, why it's not about me, people break. And so when they break and they go on rampages like that, I'm going to shoot up to school because my girlfriend did this, and it's a double-edged sword. Like libertarians, we like to say, like, individuals, we believe in individuality, but there's a good side of individuality, that being like a complete individual allows you the freedom to do what you want, and you're not bothering anybody else, and you're living your life to the fullest. But there's also a really darker side of individuality that fringes on like extreme egoism, extreme narcissism, all these negative things that kind of get accompanied with it.
Well, I think individuality, you still have to respect other individuals. You just have to have empathy for other individuals. That doesn't preclude one or the other. But the problem is that we're expecting schools to be the teachers of socialization. And there's no way they can do that. First of all, they're not equipped to do that. They're not trying to do that. And it's the worst place in the world to try and learn socialization from people your own age who also are trying to learn socialization, because that's going to create nothing but cliques, peer pressure, bullying, all that stuff is going to go on. So why aren't we teaching kids, why aren't we giving kids tools to handle socialization as they're growing up? Because apparently the parents aren't doing it a good enough job. They've abandoned their responsibility for doing that. So, when does society step in and say, we need to give our children the tools they need to function in the society and handle these things when they come up?
Well, there's just people that can't handle it. Yeah, I can give you the tools all day. Just like, hey, there's lectures, we'll go over it. There's like experiments we can do to get over how to like socialize properly. But when you look at the data, like I think I posted the data before of how school shootings increased, like starting in the 1960s, where it just started going up like astronomically. It went from like 3 to 5 to 7 to 22. It just starts going up, and it's just odd because when you look at the years that shootings started to go up, it's definitely like a high degree of liberalization. That's when birth control started hitting the market, when antidepressants started hitting the market, when video games came about, when people started like not following like traditional methods of like living their life. It's not just like we're going to do what my grandparents did and my mom and dad did. There's different avenues to go after. The more you liberalize these people, they weren't ready for it. Some of these people were just not ready for it. So as time went on, things started to get more and more free. Certain people, certain segments of society just were not able to follow along with the path. They're left in the dust. So when you get to people like Dylan Roof, I remember his last name, that when his girlfriend's just like, you know what, I'm just going to go bang this other dude. To her, it probably was no big deal. I'm done with this relationship and I'm going to go bang somebody else. Mm-hmm. But in Dylan's mind, he's probably thinking, this was my girlfriend. This was my person I'm going to have sex with. I own this agency. And that's a really archaic way of thinking, especially when you live in like 2017 or 2018. Things are so instantaneous. Things happen like that. People ghost people all the time. It's just how people are today. If you have this archaic way of thinking, you're just kind of confounded. How could a woman do that? This woman's a whore now. That's what he's thinking. So he just goes out and gets angry about it. He wasn't ready for that. If your view is archaic, you're not ready for that. So you lash out about it. I mean,
why wasn't he ready? That's the question. Is why isn't he at a point stable enough to be ready for that? If he's ready to date, he should be ready for the consequences of dating.
He probably wasn't ready because I don't think anyone told him what to do. I think he mostly got his opinion online. When you get your opinion online, you're listening to a bunch of people you don't know, faceless names. You're listening to fringe political elements. Like what's your view on women? Well, who are you getting it from? Are you getting it from like a peer group, or are you getting it from like a National Socialist website? Because the National Socialist website will tell you like, she acts up, slap her. There's a difference there.
Well, so that's why I think there should be huge mentoring programs, and that's why like Rupert and stuff like he's done. So there should be mentoring programs for kids who need the help. If the parents aren't providing it for them and getting them out of poverty, getting them out of this mindsets that they're in. Mm-hmm. Just to have someone to talk to, someone that like Big Brother used to be a big deal. Now Big Brother, who does Big Brother anymore?
Mostly inner city youth.
So, yeah, not very many though, or it would be more effective because that's an effective program.
How are you going to?
Right? So it's just not enough people aren't doing it. We need to be giving incentives for people to get into those programs.
Like, how are you going to stop? Right? Like, say we have these programs. What's to stop these people from going on the internet, going to fringe websites, finding fringe ideas, and just latching onto those fringe ideas?
Because if they are talking to somebody and checking in with somebody, people will be able to identify it. And second, they will be able to tell them face to face, hey, this isn't a good thing, and explain why. You build those relationships up. Most people, if they feel like somebody cares about them, they're not going to go down this path. Look at the kid in Florida. His parents were gone. He was with this other family. This other family that he obviously didn't feel like was caring about him enough. He didn't feel cared about. And as long as somebody feels like they're being cared for by somebody, they aren't going to go down this path.
Well, I remember it's funny because like I've been doing this since like 2004, like on 4chan, and I remember like the escalation, just to the point like I can pinpoint every shift in like how people viewed things and how when boards started coming up, how the discussions changed. Going from B when it used to be like we're going to protest Scientology because it's just funny, because Scientology is just a funny ass religion to troll because they overreact. People latched onto that, so people would go there like we're going to fuck with these Scientologists because we're just get some laughs out of it. And it goes on and it goes on and boom, here comes Gamergate, right? So what's Gamergate happens, it's like, okay, you get a bunch of feminists, right? So a bunch of these feminists just get mad at male gamers for some bullshit, just some bullshit, whatever. So people latched onto it, and the people that latched onto it weren't just people that were just wanting to get some feminists upset. A lot of people that latched onto it were a bunch of misogynist people, which were a bunch of MRA activists, which were a large contingent of like radical political thought latched onto it. So then it starts to evolve further until you get to the pole board. Now you're on the pole board, and it's just a bunch of like anti-Zionist movements, it's a bunch of like National Socialist movements. The people that were with us in Scientology just got swept up into this movement where they go from these funny little trolls wearing anonymous masks to full-blown like National Socialists, because that's just where the progression of the sport went. It's hard to stop that to some degree if like you're part of a community and the community just starts to shift and you shift with that community. That's just where you are now.
Right, but no, online communities cannot override real human interactions with people. It's just not going to do it. The only reason those things succeed is because people aren't getting what they're looking for in their real lives.
It's because they don't have any real interaction. The average
Exactly.
The average person on 4chan doesn't go outside, man. You know, so that's their entire interaction is based on what they read online, who they
because they're getting from that interaction what they're missing in their real lives. If people were being treated better in their real lives, they wouldn't be going there and doing that stuff. They wouldn't be getting caught up in those communities. I mean, that's just the way it has always been. People get caught up in these types of fringe communities because they feel like that's the people who care about them, right?
Well, if it's usually from people from like dad's not there, or it's from people that mom and dad are both working and never see them. So like they're at home all day and there's nothing to do at home all day besides just log on the internet and just read information, tons of information, get inundated with it, and just say like, okay, this is funny, I'm going to go with it, and they get swept up into it. You know, it's like, well, what's the cause? Is it having to have two parents working all the time? Is that the beginning of the problem? That because, you know, since you're 3 years old, 4 years old, mom's working 9 to 5, dad's working 5 to 9, you don't see your parents. You know, you're at school all day, and when you come home, there's no parent there. The parent that's been working all day is probably taking a nap because they're tired.
Right, yeah. Which, all these are things that are layers of stuff that happen, but like it doesn't like that still doesn't explain some of these other all these mass shootings and stuff like that. The other thing with it is that even though those things could leave to contribute and maybe a culmination of different things like that, when it comes down to the end of the day, these mass shooters and stuff like that, they're still rare occurrences, and we still don't really have a direct pattern on why these things happen.
Well, do you think, I think it's like a philosophical question, do you think society now is better or worse off than it was 50, 60 years ago in terms of like values and how people view each other and how people treat each other, not just in real life but online as well? As time goes on, you know, do people, especially with access to technology and their ability to access information worldwide no matter where it is, at like the type of a mouse or click of a mouse, has it degraded our ability to empathize with other humans? Does technology degrade our empathy to some degree?
Yeah. Let's see. Here in the chat, we got Wiki Kinder talk about, there's been a lot of decline in Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and stuff like that out there. So yeah, there's been like a 30-year decline in clubs like that, and the same thing with Boy Scout membership too. That's another reason. What's a ploy, and why the real reason why the Boy Scouts allowed girls in there is because membership was low. Let's see, Danger 317 says love is a messed up emotion. Sure is. And what Kendra goes back in is I mean, as a libertarian, I think the federal government doesn't have a role in a lot of things, but we need to be prepared as the individual to pick up the slack, to step up to the plate of we can solve our own problems locally. Well, yeah, just like Rupert, this way, like he's more libertarian than a lot of them who want to give him hell for his views, but you know, he steps up to the plate and puts his money where his mouth is and tries to help out youth. Fark Stevenson, he said he was a latchkey kid and he turned out okay. That's still remaining to be seen. Wiki Kinder goes, me too. The thing is, all kids are latchkey kids and are being raised by the internet. That's another thing is, some kids, you know, like sometimes I think that some people are better off, some aspects of society are better off, some are. A lot of the times I see a lot of young kids just letting off steam, especially young boys. A lot of them are treated like crap at school, because most of our modern school system is set up to be more feminine than there is to be masculine. Masculine is seen as being wrong, and femininity is seen as being correct. In our modern school system, most young men don't really see an older male all day because they can go to school where the maybe the only person they see as male was the bus driver and possibly the janitor. Everyone else, their homeroom teacher's female, and their teachers are all female, and the principal's probably the majority, not either going to be either female or a very, very old man. So yeah, that's what I see about that. So to me, like, all these things are like, there's layers to things that why some men have issues. I still don't think like a lot of these lead to mass shooting because there's just not enough data present to give us that aspect. But a lot of these things that you guys are bringing up, I think it's a lot of things that hinder a lot of young men between their 20s and their 30s, that they are just broken and need to be repaired, and they're not. Society just for some reason some are being fixed their own, or finding ways to be fixed, or some people are going out there another way to go fix them, or they're noticing that themselves were broken and they are fixing themselves. Myself, I had a lot of these issues too, and I got fixed just for the simple fact that the school system had my college school system was allow me to use my extra scholarship money that I had to use it to pay for therapy through the school system, which is awesome. It was amazing. I went to the psych building twice a week, and I got to talk to a psych counselor, not basically for free, but from the fact that I had more scholarship money than I do than I could shake a tree at. So.
Well, I mean, random acts of violence, especially like mass violence, they're not even new. You can just go back and read the Odyssey. Like, at the end of the Odyssey, Odysseus comes home and like his wife's there, and there's all these suitors. These suitors didn't even do anything. They're just there. They're just there. And he comes in with a bow and his sheepskin to camouflage himself. He just shoots them all dead. All of them. 20, 30, 40, 50 dead. Looking at school shootings, they go back to the 1800s here in the U.S. Like, we were shooting up schools in the 1800s with, like, weak little pistols or whatever they were at the time. There's always been instances of mass violence, and people have always done that. And I just think that there's some people that just don't fit in with society. There are always going to be people that don't fit in with society. I don't think banning guns. I don't think mental health issues, solving it with like therapy was going to help some of these people. There's just some people that just don't fit, and they don't fit, and they just lash out, things get hurt, they harm themselves, they harm others, and that just goes back thousands of years.
I was thinking, I had a conversation with someone in the Discord about that. I'm not going to say the user's name, but they were talking about, like, is this more of a product because, like, during the 90s and stuff like that, there was a lot of peacetime in the United States. There wasn't really, no wars really to get riled up, people go and kill, and, and the aspect of the military, they're not taking some of these kids and stuff like that, or we're not allowing kids to go sign up when they're 16, or so they just go in the military to burn off this steam. I don't know.
I think it's related to the war on drugs. We started locking up a bunch of nonviolent offenders, and their kids were left without fathers.
Yeah. Which does a lot of damage into the black neighborhood, which also has some of the lowest of legal gun ownership, but has most of the gun deaths.
Yep, and it's just, and the reason why it focused more on the black neighborhoods is because that was where, if you wanted to make your numbers, when you were being told that you needed to crack down on drug use, you'd go to the inner city where there was a lot more people that you could get in a smaller area than if you tried to go out to the suburbs and trying to find it.
Yep.
So guess what happened?
Yep.
And then it started creating statistics. It says, oh, look, the black community's got this bug drug problem. We're going to focus our efforts on there. It was just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And now we've taken a whole group of fathers out of the streets and put them in jail for no reason other than the fact that they were doing some sort of drugs. And society didn't like.
Yeah, and to be racially fair, they also did that to the Irish as well. That's another reason why Northern Ireland is regulated differently from England. That's one thing, like, a lot of people don't miss the aspect of Northern Ireland after doing all the different IRA conferences and stuff like that, is that they're regulated by their own set of laws in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland has guns. They have people walking around with concealed weapons permits and guns in Northern Ireland for protection.
Yeah, it's probably safer than the UK.
Oh, yeah. Which is funniest thing is that the UK is now where the bombing's at. Used to be in Ireland. Like, oh man, you go to Ireland, you're gonna get bombed. Now it's enough to go to London. You're gonna get Bombed or stabbed.
I hope you're not going out without your hijab on here in fucking Sweden. It's like, oh shit. Sweden's just Europe's. I don't get Europe's issue. Like it's tried so hard to be progressive, like really progressive, and it just bites them in the ass like every time. And, like you just don't learn from it. And I think it's just one of these things where, okay, we did some bad shit here in history, so they feel bad about it. So it's like, well, we'll just do this stuff. It's like, we'll let all the immigrants in. It's like, okay, immigration's fine. I don't care, but you can't have like, we're just gonna take every motherfucker that arrives on our fucking border and just kind of just let them scatter throughout your city.
And it's not so problem as long as you ensure that they're going to assimilate when they do. The problem is that they're not forcing them to assimilate. They're not saying, hey, these are the laws, these are the rules. You will follow them if you're going to be here. If you don't follow them, we're going to kick your ass out.
Right.
They're not doing that. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so you get these enclaves. They're enclaves. Like you can go to Sweden and you can go to an enclave as like a white man or a black man or a Chinese man, whatever, and you just walk in there and it goes from like Stockholm to Afghanistan really fucking quick. And it's just like
or near East Side Indianapolis or South Side Chicago. I mean, that happens everywhere.
Whoa. East do not compare East Side of Indianapolis to some of those places.
I spent a lot of time near East Side, and I lived in Chicago as well. I will not compare them as being equal, but I will compare them as being similar.
I'd rather walk around Fodus and Post at 2 a.m. than I would ever walk like some of the terrible parts of France or Sweden.
I was living on College, or just off of College, when the riots were here. Do you remember the riots?
No.
Like 2 days of riots that we had.
What year was that?
Oh, this had to be 96, 97 maybe.
No, I do not.
So what happened was a guy got shot by the police. The community got up in arms and started rioting. They destroyed the CVS that was there. They destroyed a bunch of buildings there at College and 38th Street.
Okay.
And they basically had locked down 3 or 4 blocks. At least it was more than that, probably. It was all locked down while these people were rioting. And I was trying to get home from work one night. And I was like, I couldn't even get to my house. I had to go around the back way and get around because the helicopters were out and the riots were going on. And they lasted 2 days. But and then the community got mad because CBS said, well, we're pulling our store out. They're like, well, you should be in here in our community and helping us. It's like, you destroyed our store. Why would we stay there?
Right, you just burnt my stuff down.
Well, no, it's the thing that's different from the east side of Indianapolis compared to like the enclaves in Europe is the enclave in like East Indianapolis. That's circumstances from redlining, that's circumstances from poverty that they just go there. When the houses are $30,000 and you can afford to live in a house on Post Road because years of not having any sort of like wealth building, that's where you go. It's not like you can just move to Carmel, Right. So when you look at like Sweden or like the UK or France, that have these enclaves that they're on full sort of like council benefits and they're just council flats. They migrate there and they just lock and shut everybody else out. So I can walk into the east side and I'm like, yeah, I'm not black, I'm not like Latino, which is the bulk of who lives on the east side. But I'm not going to get assaulted. I'm not going to get harassed. I'm just here at the gas station.
You sure about that? Because it will happen. There are places in Indy where if you go into the wrong neighborhood,
I don't get harassed.
Well, no.
But I'm not going to get a truck apiece, coming at me.
That's true, yeah.
No, I mean, it's different there, but it's a similar thing, too. They're going to those areas because they're coming in as immigrants and they're getting put up into this housing, so they're all kind of similar with each other. They're creating their own little enclave that way, right? So they're creating their little, all of us know each other and we live next to each other and we're similar to each other in some aspect or another. And it starts to feel like a community where you don't want anybody coming in and taking that over.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, there's issues there,
Yeah. On the screen, I put up what I talked about: Fodus and Post, 42nd Post Road. Look at this church right here, the George's Fish and Chicken next to the liquor cabinet, the Marathon gas station, and all these basically housing apartment complexes. They're sitting right here. all right here, and if you come down to this one right here, this is one where it's all basically kind of Afghanistan like, where these other apartments are just vacant. Yeah, Indianapolis has such poverty and such hole in the wall some places where this entire apartment complex has had fire and so much problems that it's just vacant property. No one lives here except homeless people who squat. Don't get me wrong, the apartments in this area, they're freaking beautiful and they got great floor plans. It's just they're set up for people who basically are impoverished. So.
And I used to live on like 12th Street in Arsenal area. I mean, that's not exactly the best place in the world to live. Let me tell you.
Yeah, as we talk about. I was zoomed out, showed Indianapolis. As you see, 465 goes around in a circle. That's why it's called the donut. You got your donut counter, the donuts.
Loop.
Yep, the loop. I just liked thinking of their donuts.
Show the potholes.
Yeah. There probably are a lot. Yeah, you can see the potholes here from the space map on the map from space.
I was driving to Liberty and Chill the other day. I was coming from the north side because I had gone up to Fry's first, right? So I'm coming down Fall Creek, and I'm like, "What the heck is this with the potholes?"
Oh man, you went on Fall Creek. Oof. Now now they did fix a lot of the potholes down by the bigger, meaner radio show that Dear Leader works for. They fixed those potholes.
Yeah, I saw the video that he posted where he's like, "Nice try."
Yeah.
Well, isn't that just an issue of the state offloading what should be state highways onto the city of Indianapolis and expecting Indianapolis to foot the entire bill for these giant interstates and highways, which are state responsibility?
Yeah.
Because my surplus.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. It's like, okay, there's all these roads. Most of these roads are basically connected to highways, and it's technically state property. The state should pay for it. But the offload it to Indianapolis, this is okay, Indy, you fix it. Indianapolis doesn't have the budget for it. So it's just the state just like basically rolling the shit downhill, saying
Well,
not here to put it.
Most of the state budget comes from Indy. I mean, it's not joke about that.
It does because it's just the population, but when it's the state's responsibility and the state has to foot the bill and the state refuses to do it, and it's just like, well, the city should fix it, and the city can't get it fixed because the city doesn't have the jurisdiction to fix the highways, and they have to go back to the state and be like, well, it's your jurisdiction. They play this back and forth. This was an issue in Frankfurt where the highway that 421 goes all the way up to Frankfurt, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a highway that goes into Frankfurt. And the city of Frankfurt fought for a year. Who fixes this like section of road that has potholes? Is it the state that fixes it, or is it the city that fixes it? The state would say it was the city. The city would say it was the state. That goes on and on. So like a lot of these potholes just get tied up in like backroom, bickering between state agencies and city agencies often. And people think, well, they just don't have the money to fix it. No, the money's there to fix it. They can easily do it. It's just no one wants to pay for it. The city doesn't want to pay. The state doesn't want to pay. So they're basically offloading into each other to see who's going to crumble first, who's going to get most of the blame first. And this is why they don't get fixed. These things can be fixed really easy. Like Japan fixes sinkholes the size of like a bus in under an hour. These things are massive. It's not that it can't be done really quickly. Just these agencies are constantly bickering with each other who gets to do it.
Yeah, and they aren't doing. They're not sending it out to private contracting to fix either. That's the other thing too. Is if they were saying, okay, we'll get a private contractor come in and do it at the lowest price or whatever, come in and do it, and then if it's not done by a certain date, you get dinged this much money or that much money. You'd have more oversight and better roads, I think. Well,
the state's kind of shitty with that too. Even if they outsourced it, and we say these private companies go fix it, the state doesn't like to spend money. Like, it hates it unless it's for their pet projects.
Correct.
They don't consider these roads their pet projects. So what they do is they get really inferior materials. Like, they fill these holes up all the time with, like, really low-grade asphalt that just collapses by next year.
Yeah, that's the other problem, too, is they're not making these roads withstand the things they need to be withstanding.
Yeah,
so it's not. I know it's easier, like in Florida and Georgia, where those don't get all the freezes and everything else, but why aren't we coming up with something that's better for roads, knowing it's in the climate that's going to get these freezing situations that cause potholes and fix those?
Well, that's the thing. Like in certain areas of the country, like people do. Like out in New Hampshire, they get frosties all the time, but they understand that they've got to constantly keep patching and keep over cracks, because anytime a crack happens in the road, they just seal it. They just quickly seal it. Just seal a whole road up, and they do it quickly and efficiently. Because if they don't, they'll get a frosty and they'll tear the whole road up, or they'll get massive potholes up there. Like, these roads are, like, the winters in Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire are worse than it is here in Indiana, but the potholes are worst here in Indiana. One, could it be from the traffic? Or from the, is that Stone?
Yep, Stone's here. Stone's been here for like 15 minutes. Just haven't said anything.
Jeez.
I will say that the roads in Macon are significantly better than the ones in Indiana from what I've seen, because we do not have potholes anywhere near that. And our budget
you don't get the freezing. You don't get the problems we have that cause the potholes.
Yeah, well, Georgia, at least my capital doesn't burn. How about that, boy?
Fair enough.
But they're going to pick inferior materials. Like, it's even if they do that. So even if they finally get over this bullshit where it's like, who pays for it, city or state? It's going to be, okay, we'll pay for it. Let's get some bids in. They get the bids in. They go with, like, whoever's the cheapest. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll fill it with this grade C asphalt that's going to fall apart next year. And then they don't do routine maintenance on it. So it's not.
But do they do that, or is it all done by DOT?
DOT will take contract bids if you request it. So if you're a company, you want to do it, and you do a contract bid for it, you can put in a bid, the city council votes on it, or the state votes on it. Okay, you get the bid. The problem with bidding with the government and the private industry is we take bids in Frankfurt for reconstruction over whatever, like these old buildings, these historic district buildings, mm-hmm. and you should see the markup that these private companies put on it, because it's paying with government money. Like, okay,
right. I want to get cheaper than what the government can do it anyways.
Yeah, so like we built up the let's say we're building a shed, right? In private industry, you have a competition. You're like, I want to build this shed, So you go with get a couple bids. I'll build it for $500. I'll build it for $550. I'll build it for $600. You look at some of like the schematics they're going to use, the materials they're going to use. So you make a design. Like, I want the cheap ass shed for $500, or do I want the mid-range where it's like it's not so cheap but it uses better quality materials? So you could just choose on that. When a private company goes to the city council to be like, hey, we'll build your police station, and like they're taking bids for it, people just be like, oh yeah, $5 million, $6 million, $7 million, and the city's like, well, okay, we'll go with it, because we'll just use TIF funds, and we'll use the TIF funds, and we'll take a bond out, and they'll take a bond out, and it's like, oh, okay, $5-6 million bond. And who cares if the city defaults on it, because then the state comes in. It's like, okay, you had a $6 million bond for this improvement in town, and you defaulted on your bond agreement. So we need to get the money back. Well, how do you get the money back? The state puts a TIF tax on you. So the city's like, okay, we'll go ahead and tax my citizens an extra 3%. So you get more taxes every time a city does that. The city doesn't have to pay out their own bank account. The city will just leverage you and say, if we default on the loan, the state can come in and tax you at a higher rate to pay off the loan. So for the next 20 years, you're paying more taxes than anybody else, because the state's taking it back from you. So there's no incentive for like any sort of competition here, because you're the collateral. Like, you're always the collateral. It's just, that's why I don't even want the private companies to even touch the roads, because you're just going to be used as collateral. They're going to do like a multi-billion-dollar project to fix all the roads in Indiana. The state of Indiana is like, well, we just can't pay it. We don't want to touch our surplus, so we'll just tax you, and all the tax money goes to that private company. So it's a lose-lose if they ever do that.
Well, they're supposed to be taxing on the gas, so the gas is supposed to pay for the roads, right? That's what the gas tax is for.
Really? Yeah.
Taxes. Yeah. I never heard of a tax for it. Like, they say it, you know what I mean? The government always like it's a tax for this. Mm-hmm. This is like when they got the stadium tax. It's a tax for the football stadium. I'm pretty sure they've collected well over the cost of the football stadium and those taxes, but that goddamn tax is still there every time I go get food. The extra 2 cents, 3 cents, whatever's on there, it's still there.
Well, we need to be holding the government accountable for that stuff too. That's the problem. Is nobody holds them accountable, right?
So I mean, let's say it's for the roads. Okay, we'll say it's for the roads, and they might take 10% for roads, like repaint some letters on the highway, redo the little Indiana logos and stuff like that. there. Technically, it went to the roads. Where's the other 90% getting floated to other people's projects? They'll tack it onto a rider on a bill to pay for something else.
Cricket
So
Stadium.
who's monitoring that stuff, and who's keeping them honest on that stuff? And nobody is, apparently. So that's the problem. Nobody's keeping them honest and holding their feet to the fire and saying, look, you've got this much money coming in that's going to this account that should be separate from the general account, right? And that's the problem, is they put everything into a general account and then pull out of it for whatever they want, and then the stuff that's supposed to be collected for doesn't get taken care of. It's like all the tax money that was supposed to go to the lotteries was supposed to go to the schools, and that didn't happen. It got put in the general fund, and it got put out for other projects and pay surplus and all that sort of stuff too. So we as citizens aren't holding government accountable for the things they're telling us they're supposed to be doing, because we're all too invested in this stupid left-right dichotomy that nobody wants to pay attention to what's really going on in their local community.
I mean, even if you cared enough to double check it, right? It's like, even if you're like the one or two citizens, like, I'm going to watchdog you, I'm going to bring up this issue. Clinton County has an 8% voter turnout. Out of that 8%, 98.9% were Republicans, and out of that 98.9% of those Republicans, 92% voted straight ticket. And so it doesn't matter, because if you're a Republican in Clinton County, and the only thing you have to really worry about is the primary, and you're always going to win the primary. It's very rare that someone loses a primary battle. So even if I would say, like, my representative is as an asshole, he wastes all my money, he just does whatever he wants, I hate this dude, and you can get hundreds of people to agree with you. You're like, fuck this representative. He doesn't do anything. You get all these people to agree, it doesn't matter, because most of the people that agree with you don't vote. So a bunch of boomers that are like 80 years old or whatever are going to go out there and hit straight ticket, and the guy wins automatically. Because you're not voting. Like, only people are voting are the people that are at the... And this is a shitty way to get votes, too, is the only people that voted in Clinton County were senior citizens above the age of 65 that lived at a retirement home. So even if you try to get them to change their votes, what the politicians do is they take absentee ballots to the nursing home, talk with the old people for 5 minutes, give them absentee ballots, and they straight ticket it. So the vote's already cast long before Election Day because of the absentee ballots. Because the only people that vote are these old people living in nursing homes in Clinton County. That's everywhere in Indiana. And it's not just Clinton County. Everywhere in Indiana, the majority of voters are these retirees, or these people living in nursing homes that do absentee ballots. So as long as you hit these people up, you're always going to win, because the voter turnout's so fucking bad. So even if I hate the politician, and everybody agrees to hate the politician, it's usually the young people that hate it. But the young people don't vote. So it's a moot point. You can't get them engaged. Like, I need you to vote in the primary. I don't need you to vote in the general election. The general election is, you're just going to do like a two-choice thing, or vote third party. I need you to go to a primary election and primary the dude out. You primary the dude out, you won the election no matter who was in there.
Huh. Makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Like, if you hate Paul Ryan, are you going to get Paul Ryan out by running as a Libertarian or voting for a Democrat? No. You're going to get Paul Ryan out by primarying him. So if you don't vote in the primary, which is the lowest election turnout in any election, he's never going to go away until he retires. And that's the only time we got rid of Dick Lugar was a primary.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen in California now that Feinstein got rejected by the party. I mean, I think she's still going to win the primary, but
I don't think she will. And
you don't think she'll win the primary?
No, it's...
I know there's a fight going on in the Democratic Party between the old and new. I get that's going on, but I just don't see her losing the primary. I really don't.
California shoots themselves in the foot. The Democratic primary she was always banking on the same old Democrats voting. When they increased their voter laws to basically include everybody, which includes younger college students, like, okay, anybody can vote. If those people even show up as 1%, 2%, 3%, she'll lose that primary. It's all it takes is for people that are not old people to vote. She loses that primary. And California's really been pushing that lately, where we're going to get more people out to vote that are just not retirees. If that happens, she's done. Oh, as long as there's some radical element that's like, okay, we're the local San Francisco Antifa, fuck Dianne Feinstein, she's out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes. It literally just 1 or 2% of the population that's not the average voter base is all it takes to win those elections. And people don't realize how small those margins are. it's a 1 to 2% voting difference in the primary is enough to knock a establishment candidate off the ballot that's been there for 20 years. Just 1 or 2%. That's it.
Well, we've got that in Indiana right now, where we've got a primary going on the Republican side that housed Donnelly. I don't think Donnelly's going to make it. I mean, I think he's going to be gone. The question is the Republican they're going to choose going to be good enough to beat him?
It's like our district, CD4. That goes from above Lafayette down to, I think, Greencastle. It's Fountain County, Clinton County, Boone County, all those fun counties. That's like an R32 district. You're not winning this district unless you're a Republican. It's everybody runs it here for this. It's Rakita's old seat. It's whoever votes for this, like, it's the one I'm in, and it's just like these two dudes. It's that Braun dude's brother and this immigrant guy. I don't think the immigrant guy's gonna have a chance. You know, it's like this is an R32 district. You're running as an immigrant, which is bold as shit. You know, especially, so it's pretty much just in the bag for this Braun dude. You know, no one's gonna vote for Diego. He's got people in Indianapolis running his campaign for him. The Engelberts are running it for him, I think.
Okay.
But you're an immigrant, you're Latino in a R32 county that voted, R32 district that's voted heavily for Trump on anti-immigration policies.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to make it.
It's like you're just going to get demolished. I mean, like you'll get some percentage points, because there's definitely like a large Latino population here in this district, but you're out of your base, man. Like you're out of your base. Like Steve Braun, he's got money. He worked for the Pence administration and stuff like that, which what you see on the other side of Indiana with like Pence's brother as well, and people that worked under Pence was running. And the only reason I threw myself on that ballot is because I looked at the ballot at people who are running. Every single one of these people that are running that are in like the top spots, like, oh yeah, we're definitely we're definitely going to run for Republicans this time, are all like the same acolytes from the same Pence administration. I thought that was just funny. It's just like, is this the best you got in Indiana? Because we're going to run Libertarian candidates, but all your opponents are basically people that worked under the same administration as like Mike Pence or Donald Trump from doing stuff with Mike Pence. And it's just like a garbage. I mean, elections are fucking garbage, man. They're just garbage. It's a good time to pop your mouth off on like public debates, but they're almost a joke. It's just like you almost guarantee who's going to win before they win. I wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Walking back a little bit, isn't Feinstein's opponent more left than she is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Younger, yeah.
Well, the one that's getting backed by the Democratic Party is more left. And that's a part of the problems going on in the Democratic Party is that you've got these people who are much more socialist Democrats, the Bernie bros, that sort of thing, and they're younger and they're wanting to take the party away from the old red dog Democrats that are currently in office. So there's a big fight going on that's fracturing the Democratic Party for that part.
It has to go that way because the Democratic Party fringes on minority votes. It needs those to win.
It's always kind of been a contentious situation in the Democratic Party because they are kind of a big tent party. To be honest, all three of the main parties are big tent parties. The Democrat, the Republican, and the Libertarians are all still kind of big tents. So there's always the fringe element that's going to cause problems, right?
Right.
It's like happens in the Libertarian Party. We're seeing that now. So we need. That's what I'm saying. As Libertarians, we need to be stopping our infighting and stuff so that we can let the Republican and the Democrats fall apart while we're building stronger. And I hate to see us.
You just got to physically remove all the end caps. That's the problem with the LP, and it's.
Well, I don't mind them being in there, and I don't mean part of the problem, but quit trying to turn the party into your own private debate club that's so pure that 3 people are going to vote for you.
I voted for Daryl Perry. It's like, okay, you voted for Daryl Perry. Cool.
So you don't want to win. That's the problem. If you don't want to win an election, you can do whatever you want and say whatever you want. You're never going to achieve anything, accomplish anything. But yeah, you can be that way if you want to be.
I will not have you guys bash the establishment anarchist candidate Dara W. Perry. Okay, all right, he's an establishment candidate. He had, he was just too pure for you guys to understand. But I'm with you. My main problem with like a lot of anarchists, like in the LP party, I'm like, listen, like the party's there to win. If you want to be pure message libertarian or anarchist, there's room for that. But when you're part of the party, the idea, like just like any other business like that, the goal is to win elections and get what you can get accomplished. Not to spout or write philosophical prose or beautiful ornamental words when it comes to liberty. That's not what it's meant for. It's meant to win.
Well, I kind of, that's why I started calling them hipstertarians, because they're like hipsters in the fact that they love this band, right? And they love this this little indie band that no one's ever heard of. But if that indie band gets popular, they say they've sold out. They're not doing the same stuff they were doing before. They're watering down their music in order to be popular, and they get all upset and offended at it, and they turn on that band. And it's what I see happening in libertarian parties. Somebody, you start to get popular, they don't like it. It's not their own little thing anymore. They're not special.
They got so mad like when Augustus Invictus ran, and he had this whole identitarian little faction in the Libertarian Party, which was just great, right? And you just had the moderates, and you had the ANCAPs, who had just been always just arguing for like the last 10, 20 years. But here comes Augustus, right? Who's just like, I'm here. I'm into witchcraft. I think
White power.
Just right out the gate, and he, libertarian person's like, what the fuck is this? And he just rationalized it in the most libertarian way possible. Our founding fathers, blah blah blah, so and so, like this. It says all people are treated equal. I don't consider other people not white people. It's like, oh shit, that's like straight out the gate. Just slams it. And he was running in Florida, and people were getting upset about it. Like, this motherfucking Nazi's running, blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, you're a big tent party. He's an identitarian. He probably matches your platform 90%. The only thing you're disagreeing with is basically his huge racist tangents. That's right. What he's doing. So like that 10% difference just caused him to flip out over Florida. And it's like, well, you welcomed it. Like you're ANCAPs, you welcomed it.
Right.
The ANCAPs are just like, I want everybody in, no matter what they are, we'll just vote and stuff. We just don't want status. Well, technically, he's not a statist until he gets elected. Then it's okay.
Yeah, he will use the state to do things. Yeah.
It's freedom. We'll have freedom. We'll have AKs and heroin fields for us. But if you're a minority, you got to go. So it's like, okay, where do you draw the line? Like he's all about all this freedom, right, for white people.
But then at that point, you're crossing over into out of individualism, out of NAP, and into areas that we just don't want to be part of.
Well, right? yeah, it's that idea, like, can you be racist and be a libertarian? Yeah, but can you be a part of the Libertarian Party? Hell no. Get out. Get the heck out. F you. No.
Racism is the lowest form of collectivism. I think that's what Ayn Rand said. Ayn Rand, whatever her name is.
She's a cuck, but it's just funny because the way he rationalized it, he was like, okay,
Hop's doing a similar thing. I mean, it's not new.
He's
just more overt about it.
It was just funny. It was saying, okay, like you're a human being, right? And you're an individualist, right? And he's just going on about how you're an individualist. It's like, how do you view an ant? How do you view a dog? How do you view a horse? Like, you usually view it as property or just a thing. That you don't care. You don't care if you crush an ant. You don't care if you swat a fly. So he likened like minorities, right, to a fly. It's like, okay, you're a Muslim, you're a fly. So I'm going to dehumanize you to a point that I'm not going to view you as a human. So if I don't view you as a human, therefore you don't have individual rights. Therefore I can do whatever I want to you, which is, okay, you're an individualist at this point, but you're devaluing everybody else to not be individuals. So you're almost like an authoritarian libertarian. It's kind of like this weird oxymoron, if you will. It's like, I believe in freedom except for things I don't believe in freedom for,
Was
And
liberty for me, but not for thee. Was that the old saying?
Yeah, yeah. And it was almost was like I think Stone. I think you posted that in the We Are Libertarians group. Is like, what is your least libertarian stance thing? I think everyone's got that one stance, and theirs just has to be very deplorable.
Well, wasn't it Rothbard who said every libertarian gets one view or issue that they aren't going to be libertarian on, and it's okay. But at some point, you have to draw the line. I mean, that's just.
I think Tim McGuire got mad at. You remember when we did the Morty's thing, and I got up there to talk, and I said, like, you know, I'm an isolationist, and Tim booed me, like boo. He's like boo. I'm like over what? Like I used to be an isolationist. That means I'm not building bases in foreign countries. I'm not fucking with foreign countries. They just go do their own thing. He was mad because, like, it was just like, you know, okay, I lock down my country. I don't build them here. I don't invite anybody in. We just stay as static, you know. And he got upset about it. I'm like, well, you're not really nation building if you're an isolationist. Yeah, you don't take in immigrants either, but you're also not exacerbating international problems by doing that. It's not like, okay, we have a huge influx crisis on like southern or northern border. We're not going over here. We're just left alone. Just leave you alone, you leave us alone, and we just do what we do, and you do what you do. Have fun in Wakanda, my friends. Just have fun. And he got so mad about it, and I'm like, that's a pretty libertarian stance. I mean, yeah, it's not the open border libertarian stance, but it's all right. I'm cutting the budget 90% by saying that. You know, it's no, we're not going to build foreign bases. We're not going to have amnesty programs. We're just going to keep going until we can't anymore. You got to
You won't be able to anymore because you will eventually wither away and die. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
It would, you know, I think we're talking about in the group chat how it's like, I just want a nuclear bomb to go off because I want to watch the cave people that live on like 1,000 years after us find ancient relics, like, you know, an iPad or something like that, and think it's like a Bible or something. You know, it just intrigues me. But heck, I'm. It was like the colonial discussion. You know, it's like if I can live 1,000 years, till we can get like international space station level living, where we can just float through space. Mm-hmm. And the only reason the only reason I want to do that with the cloning things, transfer my brain here or there, is because I want to live Cowboy Bebop like it's fucking real life. I want to be Spike and I want to shoot goddamn bounties across the nation.
Well, gotta have our goals. Gotta have our goals.
That's a good dream. Who doesn't? Like Reinhold, if you had the chance, would you go float through space as a bounty hunter, collecting like credits on Jupiter? It'd be awesome, right? Like, boom, Reinhold 3.0. Yeah, you could be a Boba Fett. You can just fly through there. And I think that's where you want to go. Like, I don't care about the nations. We can isolate our nations on Earth.
Do I get a Faye Valentine thought on my ship?
There'll be plenty of space thoughts.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, space, you know, it's like people are just, you're not bound by the laws of man. But it's, you know, people worry about like what's now. Like, I got to close it down now. I got to open it up now. It's like, okay, well, why can't we invest? We got the SpaceX program starting to kick off. You know, they're launching stuff like here. Like 100, 200, 300 years now, does this little patch of Earth really matter? Does your border really matter? Does these people really matter at all? Once you start expanding, what was it?
Wicked Kinder is worried about the soundtrack in the future. Will we have a cool soundtrack?
It would be like space jazz infused blues, space rock. Okay. Like David Bowie meets Jim Morrison meets EDM music. It'd be great.
With a little Steve Ray Vaughan on top.
Well, I'll just throw it in there.
Okay. All right.
I think it'll just be high pitched screeching constantly because that's music is devolving.
But I think that's the frontier for liberty. Like I don't think you'll really find it here on Earth because there's limited.
Well, that's what they were trying to do, the seed steading for that seedsteading, right? That was always the big panacea of libertarianism, is to build your own country out the sea and then screw everybody else and live there.
Yeah, it's when you live in a nation, like especially like a nation state, nation states have limited resources. There's limited things in nation states. When things are limited to that, when you have to fight over resources, you're fighting with not just internally over resources, but externally with other nation states over resources, over bodies, over all this petty stuff. You don't really have freedom here, as long as that exists. Like you can't really exist here free. As long as there's any sort of fighting over a resource, you're not going to be free. Once you start to explore and expand hundreds, thousands of years in the future, space, you go to different parts of space, do what you want to do in space, there's no real need to rely on finite resources. You can just grow your own food. You can find your own patch of dirt and just do what you want to. You can homestead the universe. It's yours. You can do what you want. There's no law here. You are the law.
But how do we, so how do we fight the finite resources here in the United States? I mean, if we find a way to manufacture food in a way that it's pill form or whatever, and then, like they have on Star Trek, where you can just have a replicator make your food for you. I mean, you have unlimited power from some method or another, and then where do you get to? You don't have those finite resources anymore.
I think that's where it shifts to luxury space communism. It's funny because this whole like when people are like, well, we need to be a communist society, it doesn't work now, and it definitely doesn't work just because there's an issue with those finite resources. When it's a system where it's infinite, where you don't have to work, you can replicate your food, you can replicate your entertainment, you can just replicate anything. You can do your own things. There's really no need for any capitalism anymore. You don't have to earn money to buy stuff to do things. Like if you can just replicate it, everybody has a replicator. You can just do what you want to do, and I wouldn't even call it communism. It's more like a community at this point, where it's just like you have your little commune. You just replicate what shit you want to do with people you like to hang out with. And you just kind of do what you need to. There's no need to work. There's no need to earn money anymore. You get to that point of leisure. You don't really need this anymore.
Yeah. That's All right, we're getting close to that wall that I like to hit of low-key wall, but we only do an hour and a half episode. I'm not going to do I'm not going to do 4 like we did on our first episode. I'm going to try to keep this thing to an hour and a half, so we'll try to, what?
Because I could go 4 hours.
I know. And I didn't get to other articles I wanted to talk about, but it's okay.
Luxury gay space communism is excellent, and
yeah, you could do that, or like do the pirate ship thing, or the stuff they like Ernest Hancock, like the pirate party. They're just gonna, open source building a ship and moving and getting the heck out of here. That's always sounds like a good idea. I'm just read this last chat comment, and then we'll go to you, Niece, since you newest person to Loki Wall. Let you go first to wrap things up. But hey, just read a book with Mars colonists. They were called Muskies. As Elon Musk, the alt-right Muskies didn't fare well when the aliens invaded. Oh, wow, okay. All right, so Niece, final thoughts on this episode, or just anything you just want to let out. If you want, if you have a Twitch channel or anything that you want to promote, this is your chance to do it. Go.
No, I think we went over like a lot of stuff. We went over like why people do school shootings, issues with potholes, why individuals bad when it's in excess, and ended up with like how to get past nation states and where like true liberty actually is, and it just kind of all ties back, at least until like when you think about it, we're at a point in time where things are accelerating hyper quick. Things are really accelerating. Like 50 years ago, everything you see now didn't exist. Maybe the table, there's tables been around forever, chairs have been around forever, but even automotive today are different than they were. And things are just accelerating to like that point, that singularity point, at least in terms of technology, where we just can't adapt quick enough. Like, when I look at people that are so disconjoined with reality that they kind of just live on the internet, they learn on the internet, they do things on the internet, and they have issues with socialization with that. Are our brains capable of processing the information at the level that is being doled out without getting wrapped up and swept up in the issues? And are we able to compete with each other without having this around us? This technology bubble that's constantly growing and growing and growing as we accelerate to that singularity. it's just an interesting thing, uh, where we're going to go with that. Will we finally just accept it, or we continue to fight it? Because I think people look at their smartphones all day. People look at their phone more than they talk face to face anymore. Like we can go out to Liberty and chill. We can go out anywhere, and we're always going to be looking at the phones because the phone's always more interesting than what people are talking about face to face.
Now, see, you haven't been to the new and improved Liberty and Chill yet, Niece, and there's low looking at the phone look. The only time people really look at the phone is when I got the Twitch stream going on the tablet. Majority of people, we engage in conversation and look each other in the face.
Sounds cucky.
It's not.
It's old school, man.
Yeah, we're very old school. Especially eventually one of these Fridays at the Indianapolis Liberty and Chill, we're gonna go get Korean food and sing karaoke all night. Which mostly I see it as devolving into us not really singing songs, just using the microphone and the platform to shout at each other on different points of views.
It's just an interesting
Taxation is
thing. Taxation is the no. It's it's just amazing how disconjoined people are with technology. How people just changed because of technology. How we interact with each other. Where we're going with that. So, when I look at how governments interact with each other, how people interact with each other, and how we interact with government, how it's all kind of just changed on face value, people just disaffected and disassociated with just day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to get to the point where we go to space, where we can just be true individuals? I think that's probably the best thing for a lot of people. I think we're starting to evolve past society a little bit. People are just not really wanting to be a comedian. Like you said, the Rotary clubs are closing down. Bowling alleys are closing down. There's tons of things that are closing down because they're just not virtual. People want virtual. Mm-hmm. They want, why would I want to go to a bowling alley? Why do I want to go to the Rotary Club, the Elks Club, the Moose Club, wherever? Why do I want to go to these places when I can just order it off Amazon and just chill on the internet, watch Netflix all day? Instantaneous gratifications kind of ruined our ability to seek out new things.
Well, I think you're wrong about that because people do things for the gram, for the Instagram pic. All right, Reinhold, go.
So if you want to follow me on Twitch, I have a channel, Reinhold TV. I also have Twitter with Reinhold TV for gaming stuff, and then Reinhold for all political stuff. And I am launching a new podcast called Politinerd, which should be out soon, politinerd.com, which I hope will be out within the next 2 days.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Get it out there. So, everybody, if you guys see Reinhold in the Discord and he hasn't put a link in or said anything about his podcast, please poke him. Make sure he gets on that. So, I expect if we either get him to post his podcast by next Monday, or lots of you guys are just at Reinhold, where's that podcast? All right. But one thing I do want to say, before I let go, is, Niece, I want you back on. I want to talk more about this singularity thing. I'd rather give you an hour to talk about this singularity stuff, because I always hear people talk about it. I'm always skeptical every time I hear about it because there's so much differences and things in it. So I really would like to really delve into it and pick your brain on it on air. And I'm sure a lot of people who've either heard the singularity things offhandedly, but, I would really like to get you to hold down and get you on the record and really talk about some of the singularity stuff.
And I have a few things about it too, like the fact that I think what you're saying is partially true mostly for men, but I think women are still very sociable creatures and spend a lot of time socializing.
Hey, they're not creatures; they're property. Address them as they are.
Anyways, thank you for listening to Low Key WAL. We'll be back next week on same bat channel at 8 o'clock. We'll also be doing our IRL stream on Fridays at Liberty and Chill at Triton of this Friday. Christy should be there this Friday. And then we'll doing Wall Gaming on that Friday night. And then also that time, Dear Leader will be at the YAL conference in Washington, D.C. Hopefully he'll bring us back some edibles, sneak them on the plane, or just, hopefully we'll get a nice, he's in D.C. Hopefully he just goes out there, have some fun, go see some monuments, pay his respects to some of the war memorials, who knows. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone who tuned into Low Key Wall, who are listening to this on the podcast, who decided to give this a download. You could have been downloading, listening to anything in the world, but you have picked this up, and I want to say you thank you. Thank you for all the people that came over to twitch.tv/ We Are Libertarians and viewed it live. That's the main thrill about this. I love to have people to really start experiencing this thing live and just come here, hang out, and just talk and just bring different things up. We went on one topic that I didn't even think we were going to go into and went in a different direction than I even planned tonight, and that's perfect. This is what this thing's for. Some nights here on Low Key Wall we'll go in different directions because a chat posted something. This is what I want Low Key Wall to be. This is what I like to keep going. So please, if you hear this, listen to this, you're interested, or you just want to jump into the voice chat like Stone did and just hang out and just put out random comments like Stone did, hey, that's fine too. Notice I didn't kick Stone out. I stayed there, just kept making comments, and I love that. I love Stone for that stuff. Also, I'll give a shout out to Blade. You're missed in the group. You're supposed to be the heart of the group. You're supposed to be here in the group to make sure that we're not traveling too far away from sin, and you haven't been distant from the Discord. Stop being distant. Come back to the Discord. We miss you. All right. Thanks for tuning in, Low Key Wall. Everyone, have a nice week. See you guys next week. Bye.